Hi, I'm Marie Elizabeth Molly, and this is Relationship Alchemy. Today, we're going to be talking about closing the pleasure gap with Tiffany Yelverton. Tiffany Elise Yelverton is the founder and chief sexinista of Entice Soirees, Incorporated, and Sexy Survivors. She's a master at disarming sexual shame and normalizing conversations around sex and pleasure. Tiffany inspires women to love their bodies and experience the orgasms of their dreams to eradicate the gender pleasure gap. She makes it a sexier world with body-safe, non-toxic pleasure items, courses, coaching, and luxury retreats. Welcome to Relationship Alchemy, Tiffany.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about today.
Me too. I'm so glad we're finally getting to talk because I love what you do. And I'd love for you to talk about what is the pleasure gap?
The pleasure gap is the difference between the amount of orgasms that men and women have when they're having intercourse or when they're having any intimacy. So men tend to orgasm most of the time, 96% of the time, even on a first time encounter, where women, it can be as low as 4%. So
oh my God, that's devastating. 4%.
Closing that gap really makes a huge difference in our lives as women.
Absolutely. What are some of the contributing factors to it being that low?
A lot of women don't know their bodies and haven't self-pleasured. Libido can come into play, comfortability with your partner, body love. If you don't really love your body, it's really hard to be naked and not be focusing on your stomach jiggling or things moving around the way you don't want them to. There's many different factors. And
it feels like that would have them stay very much in their heads, right? If they're worried about all that stuff, it's like you're stuck in your head.
Yes. Getting out of the head and then just trying too hard sometimes, like just focusing on the end result instead of the pleasure that they're having at the moment.
Oh, say a bit more about that, the difference between focusing on the end result versus the pleasure.
So yes, we all want to have as many orgasms as possible. It's an amazing feeling. It's healthy. However, if you're focusing on the end result, a lot of times you're missing out on the good, juicy stuff that's happening in the moment. And so one of the things I work with my clients is just getting back in touch with the body, with their body, and feeling the things that are actually where your bodies are touching, where the feelings and sensations that are happening at that time. And you know, our brains as women are very circular, so we can be thinking of laundry over here and there's a sock over there and I got to do this and my to-do lists, and it just goes and goes and goes. And men don't do that. They're very linear brained and also very compartmentalized, where it's just what's going on right then.
So how do you suggest that we as women train ourselves to be more present? Because I agree, it's super hard.
It starts with just adding that into your everyday life. We go through life a lot of times, and not just in the bedroom, but we touch ourselves all day, but we forget to feel. And so one of the best a couple really quick things that you can start to incorporate in your life is to, when you're taking a shower, just feel the water on your body. When you're washing your hair, you know, scrub your head and touch and go, oh, that's what it feels like. The water temperature is this. Starting to be more aware in your everyday life helps you be more aware in your love life as well. So even, you know, so the shower, and then when you put body lotion on, instead of, I know I was so guilty of this, just slap it on, but actually feel your body and go, oh, that's my skin texture, and I love my body and I appreciate it and everything that's going on, that this body has carried me through life. And to just take 2 extra minutes that you can rub your lotion on and start to get in touch with yourself.
I love that suggestion. And it feels, I can even just feel my own energy dropping in as you describe that. And I picture myself doing that. It feels like it would be super grounding and pleasurable, you know, and even laying aside genital contact, just pleasure in sensation. Is that a way that you help survivors get back into their bodies too?
Absolutely, because they when you've gone through a traumatic experience. I work with a lot of cancer survivors, especially who have had some kind of genital surgery or breast surgery, which we really identify as our femininity. And so to get back into the body, it just is a lot of work on stripping down and loving your body and appreciating it and touching yourself non-sexually, just to get back. Because when we touch, that stimulates oxytocin production, which is what really is the culmination at an orgasm. It's that chemical that makes us feel good. It's a cuddle chemical. And when you're in a partnered situation, that oxytocin is stimulated and it binds you to your partner. But when you stimulate your own oxytocin production, then it really helps you love yourself more. Because instead of it bonding you to someone else, it bonds you to yourself.
Oh, I love how you put that.
Self-love. And that's why women really need to self-pleasure, even if you're in a relationship, because it creates self-love and body love.
Let's talk some more about that, because I remember, I mean, there's just so much shame associated with touching ourselves. Many of us have gotten massive messages that it's bad and wrong. I remember I was like 6 years old and I was caught touching myself and I got punished for that. So it took a long time for me to work into having it be a necessary and normal part of daily life. How do you work with people in that journey to normalize and normalize touching ourselves and also release the shame around it?
So shame is generational with self-pleasure, especially for women. And I find it very interesting that, for men and for teen boys, it's like a rite of passage to masturbate. But for women, it's like, oh, good girls don't do that. And so working past that part, there's always usually a religious or cultural portion, no matter where you live in the world. It's across every culture, every religion, and pretty much every society has so much shame built up. I use EFT, emotional freedom technique, you might have called it tapping, to help clear out some of that, just helping my clients really just start that non-genital touch and then move into genital touch. I do a guided touch activity that's a recording for them.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
And know that it's not shame, that it's something that's good for you. And if you don't know your own body, it's really hard to communicate what you need and like and desire to your partner.
Yeah, say more about that, because that part I've heard. We were talking a little bit before the show, and I was saying how I hear over and over again from the partners of women that they wish their women would speak up more and be more direct about what they want. And my response was, a lot of them probably don't even know. And if they do know, they may not have language, or there may be shame in the way again. So would you unpack that a bit more? And if there's any suggestions you have for how to begin easing into being more communicative, I'd love to hear them.
We aren't taught to talk about pleasure or to communicate it. And if we watch what Hollywood does in movies and TV shows, it makes it look like you guys just touch and kiss, and 2.5 seconds later, you have an orgasm. Right. And that is so unrealistic and really is a disservice to women, because that's not how the body works. And so most women that I've talked to haven't even ever taken a mirror down below and looked at everything and say, this is where it feels good. This is where my clitoris is, where my openings are, and really just starting to look at your body and know. And it's even taken out of, a lot of it's not even in medical books anymore. So it's
really? Wow.
And the whole clitoris wasn't even discovered until like the 90s. So
super recently.
For women it's not our fault that we don't know, because science didn't even know. So it's like just starting to explore yourself and to know that it feels good, and that's okay. The clitoris is there because its only job is to provide pleasure.
I want to highlight that piece because it's so powerful that we have a part of our body that's purely there for pleasure, and only women have that.
Mhm.
It doesn't have another function.
No.
And so I agree with you. It behooves us to learn our way around it.
And then to
Isn't it
learn
like
how to
8,000? It's like 8,000 nerve
8,000 nerve
endings.
endings,
Yeah.
yes. And just, when you want to communicate to your partner, you can start by just doing non-verbal communication. Like, I like to be touched like this or like this, and starting to just talk about anything that turns you on. And doing touch, I have them, do a touch activity usually together. And so Masters and Johnson in the 50s developed that about the sensate touch, to not only do it on yourself, but to do it on your partner, and then see how their body feels and see where it reacts, and do it in the light so you can see, hair standing up and goosebumps and things like that, so that you can really feel and use all your senses.
I love that. So I heard you say first, starting with touching yourself, not going straight to the genitals, but first just getting a sense of what areas of your body feel good to be touched, what kind of touch, heavy, light, I imagine, fast, slow,
Yeah.
all the different pressure, speed, all of that can be tested really and researched on ourselves.
Yes.
And then bringing that to each other with a partner. And then from there, you could progress then to genital contact, right?
Yes, and even with yourself, you can slowly progress to the breasts and to your vulva. You don't have to do it all at once. It just is like, sometimes you just need to learn how to touch your face.
Oh, amen. Yeah.
I put makeup on every day, but I forget to feel because I'm rushing around,
Yeah.
And just to go,
yeah.
that's that feels really good right there behind my ear that I didn't know about, or, spots that haven't been touched in a long time.
I'm so curious, what brought you to this work? Because it's so necessary and so beautiful. And I want to hear a bit about your story.
So when I was in my mid-20s, I just gotten out of a relationship with a narcissist. And I thought that I'd always had a high sex drive. I just thought I wanted more sex, but I realized that I hadn't ever had an orgasm and that I wanted better sex. And looking at how society treats women in pleasure, is that I realized that the messages that we get as young women is that sex comes with consequences. And we never learned about pleasure. We never really learned about our bodies. And so to take myself through the journey that now I take my clients through, to learn to touch myself, that was the first step. I learned to touch myself and learn to feel my body. And when I had my first orgasm, I was like, why don't we teach every woman this? Like, are you kidding me? Like,
seriously,
this was much more important than geometry, This is what we need to know, because it affects relationships so much. We have all these negative messages, and then we get into a relationship and are expected to be intimate all the time. And it doesn't always feel good in our body because we have these messages that we've been carrying around for years.
Absolutely. And we also, again, coming back to where we started, we don't necessarily know what to ask for because we haven't been taught. And like you said, the movies just give this unrealistic model. Do you feel like part of the pleasure gap is that we have a very masculine model of orgasm? We think of orgasm as this ramp up, and then this drop off. And that's really the masculine model. But the feminine, at least from the training I have, the feminine model of orgasm is the entire cycle of pleasure is orgasmic. And the more we can be present to and open to that, the more we can really deepen into our own pleasure aside from a climax moment. Could you say more about widening our relationship to pleasure, just like you described so beautifully with touching your face?
Sure. So men can actually extend their orgasmic plateau as well.
Yes, they can.
I think that the education piece is really important to start with. Is an orgasm and ejaculation are two separate functions of the body, that men can have non-ejaculatory orgasms just like women have, and then both of us can also ejaculate without having an orgasm, and vice versa. So it's the climax for men seems to be like that ejaculation point, but that doesn't have to be the end of the experience. It really, sexual pleasure and closing the pleasure gap has a lot to do with the foreplay that we do or don't get.
Yeah.
The average woman needs about 24 minutes of foreplay to have an optimal option to have an orgasm. And most women get 2 to 3 minutes because that's how long men take to get aroused.
Right.
And so like that 2 minutes doesn't really get us very far at all. And for women also, arousal starts in the brain. And for men, it starts with blood flow to the genitals. So it's very, very different. And so being able to start to turn yourself on by thinking about things that are sexy, thinking about past experiences, even before you get into the bedroom, maybe you're brushing your teeth and you go, okay, now I'm going to think about this. And, what was that hot scene I saw in Bridgerton? Like what, or whatever show you're watching, 365 days or whatever you want to watch. But, to start to think about that, and that foreplay really can go on from experience to experience. And then it's like flirting all the time and you're in a heightened state of arousal.
Which is such a wonderful way to live.
Yes.
Having that heightened relationship to arousal throughout the day. Can you say a bit about what you notice in your clients as they expand this access to pleasure, this relationship to arousal? What starts to happen in their lives as a result?
Their lives change completely. And I realized this with myself back in my 20s, is that I was asking for things that I wanted, not just in the bedroom, but also in my career. I asked for raises that people had never been paid at that salary level and got them just because it's the confidence level. So your confidence goes up, you love your body. At that time, I weighed 100 pounds, 80 pounds less than I do now. And I thought I was super overweight.
Wow.
And that body dysmorphia completely goes away when you have orgasms, because you just feel you're at a heightened level. You've got the chemicals that go through your body and the endorphins and all the things that make us feel good. They're there. So it's so powerful to be able to ask for what you want. Your health is better. 3 orgasms a week cut down on heart disease by up to 50%. It can help with prostate cancer reduction, all kinds of stuff, depression, sleep patterns. It helps with collagen production, everything. So it's like Botox without the needles.
I love that.
It's, we see people that are like, your energy changes when you're highly orgasmic, and people go, I want what she's got. I don't know quite what it is, but it's sexual power. And
yes,
because you own your pleasure, you have sexual power. We can get all into that about.
I'd love to get into that. I'm all about it. Yeah.
So men have always known that sex is power, and that when a lot of why women have been shamed so much is because it takes away our power.
Yeah.
And my philosophy and true belief is that if we close the pleasure gap, we're going to close the gender wage gap as well.
Oh, I love that. That makes so much sense.
Because men masturbate about 37% more than women. And the pay gap is what, 29 cents or 20, like you close that gap, it gets a lot closer.
Wow. Especially when you link it to confidence, like you were saying.
And my clients always like, I can't believe I did this. I asked for this. I got this. I did a Facebook Live last week about one of my clients that got $10,000 extra dollars in a salary negotiation.
Because she stepped up and asked for it?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
She masturbated before she went into the conversation. And
I was going to ask you. Yeah.
No, that was her homework. She had already been given the offer and accepted it and given her notice at her other job. And then she was like, this wasn't what I expected. It's so much lower. And I said, well, still got one more conversation with them about benefits and everything. Said, self-pleasure before you go on that call. She did. And she texted me after, she's like, you're right, I got 10,000 extra dollars.
That's fantastic. That's sending me all sorts of directions, sex magic, all of that. If you were to talk a bit about sex magic and really, I don't know if you call it that, we called it that in my old community, but the idea of being connected to your own sexual power and your pleasure as you do things in the world. How does somebody get started? Is it the same like we've said already, or is there a different step that you suggest?
No, I begin everybody with touch and everybody with a mirror exercise. I have them strip down and just look at their body and appreciate it and thank it. And it starts with that love, because when you love yourself, you're full already, and you don't need a partner. You don't need things that in your life. You can want them, but it doesn't come from that need point of view. When you're self-sufficient, it's like, I don't need anyone else for my pleasure. I've got it. I love having sex with my partner, but I also love having sex with myself.
Amen. Say a bit about how that changes your energy, because I agree, it's so much more magnetic when you come from that fullness and from owning your pleasure. That question, but the other question that just occurred to me is also, how do you integrate, like, I own my sex, I own my pleasure, and I'm happily receiving? Can you say a bit about receptivity?
What was the first part?
I forgot it already. Let's just go to the second part.
Okay. So receptivity is that it comes from that point, like, I get to have this. It's part, and I want to have this, and it's a gift. And remember, pleasure goes both ways. So letting your partner experience pleasure by pleasuring you. A lot of men do want to please, they just don't know how. We're all a little bit different. We don't come with an instruction manual. They're learning about sex from their friends and porn. So that's not realistic. They really don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They may think they do, but they really don't.
It's true.
And so have fun and have mutual masturbation sessions, and watch your partner, see how they touch themselves, see how they get to see how you touch yourself. It just really helps in communication as well.
Absolutely. And in building that connection really to each other's pleasure from a place of, fullness, rather than, oh no, what if I do it wrong? Or I don't know, Yeah.
And like, oh, I really want to have a relationship. I need this person in my life, instead of like, oh, you're an cherry on top, instead of just that I have to have the sundae.
I feel like that's ultimately what you're teaching, right? Is how to be, it's this doorway in, and it's like, how do you live from abundance, live from fullness, live from self-ownership? Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. And it brings abundance in every part of your life.
It really does. And I remembered the question that I forgot earlier, which was really a word about how it changes your energy, what that magnetism, because it's not only about, walking in the room in some low-cut dress and so people look at you. That's not what we're talking about. It's a deeper thing. So can you talk about the deeper thing?
Absolutely. So your energy vibrates at a higher level. You have a completely different energy. A few weeks ago, it was probably a couple months ago, I don't know, I lose track of time, but I did a before orgasm picture and an after.
Oh, and yes, I remember that. That was powerful.
The after sex glow is not a myth. Like, your skin looks better because of that stimulating of collagen production. Circulating blood, your blood circulates better. You do have like a different color of your skin. And it's that orgasmic glow that is magnetic. Like,
It
I don't know what
really
you did
is.
today, but you look amazing, you
You
know,
look amazing, right?
and
Well, I
learning to
mean,
accept those compliments.
makeup was invented to imitate that.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, makeup was invented to imitate the orgasmic glow because our eyes darken and our cheeks get red. And makeup was actually invented to enhance that and try to give us that look all the time.
Well,
You know,
have an orgasm, you're going to look like that all
you're
the
going to
time.
look exactly. I was going to say you're not going to need the makeup because you'll actually be glowing from the inside.
Yes.
I understand you have a free gift. I love the title of this. I actually forgot to write it down, but it was about confidence. And can you say a word about it and what the actual title is?
It's 5 Sexy Secrets to Insane Sexual Confidence.
That's it. Yeah. Could you tell folks about that? I'm enticed.
So the little things that we can do in our everyday life to feel sexier about ourselves and our bodies. And that's what I'll be sharing.
Oh, fantastic. So the links for that is going to be in the show notes, as is the link to Tiffany's website. She has wonderful products for sale. She does these soirees. Really go check out her work. Is there anything that you'd like to leave folks with as a final thought?
Own your pleasure and know that you're worth it and that you can have whatever you want in life if you just really learn about yourself and take ownership of that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. This has been Relationship Alchemy, and I'm Marie Elizabeth Molly. And until next time, remember that a great relationship starts with you.